So hello and welcome to the gallery talk and reception for the Cape Cod Museum of Art's Departures exhibition. I'm Benton Jones, I'm the Director of Art. I want to thank all the artists who submitted artwork for this exhibition, which proved to be our most competitive jury exhibition ever. We had 520 entries from 347 artists, and the submissions came from 35 US states, 7 countries: Canada, England, Spain, Denmark, India, China, and Latvia. And only 53 artworks were selected for this exhibition, including 11 sculptures, 20 two-dimensional works, and 2 videos. So congratulations to those 53 artists. Nick Lawrence served as the juror, and I would like to thank him. I'd also like to thank my team on staff, namely Joyce Gromer here, helping me on the video, and Erica Stresbeck, who helped in most every step of the organization and marketing for this exhibition. I'd also like to thank Yana Jones, manning the other camera here, who administered the wall text. I'd also like to thank volunteers Stephen Petruska and Gary Bergonski, who helped me hang this exhibition. And I'd also like to thank Frank Ostrander, who is downstairs and helping with the audio-visual. We really wouldn't be able to do any of this without his technological expertise. A little bit about Nick Lawrence. He's an artist, curator, gallery owner, and founder of the DNA Artist Residency Program. Nick Lawrence divides his time between Cape Cod and New York City. His freight and volume gallery in New York City has been in operation for 25 years and is dedicated to showcasing work that is innovative and not afraid to take risks. His ready-made gallery on Cape Cod serves as a showcase for artworks created in the DNA Art Residency Program. The DNA Residency, now entering its 12th season, hosts 30 to 50 artists per year for 1 to 2 weeks. And while on Cape Cod, the artists have access to 2,000 square foot studio space in Provincetown, housing in Orleans and Eastham, and create work inspired by their surroundings or continue from existing studio practice. As with all of our exhibitions, there will be a selection of classes offered in concert with this exhibition. I know Erica Stresbeck has reached out to some of the artists in this exhibition to develop classes on the Departures theme. We like to think of our exhibitions as the tree in our educational programs as the fruit. So have a look at our website, pick one of the fruits and dig your teeth into a class or workshop. Nick Lawrence is in Brussels currently for an art expo. He wished he could be here today. So in preparation for this, I invited him to do a walkthrough of the exhibition and to select the award winners and to get his perspective on the selection process. So we're going to start with this pre-recorded tour with Nick. And then the artists that are here tonight will have a chance to say a few brief words about their work. So there's a lot to get to. Let's get started. She didn't get her acceptance until it was, I think, a day before it was due. And she's in New York City. She works for the Wall Street Journal. And anyway, she ended up driving all night to bring it here, and then back in the morning to get back to work. So, is Eva Aspinwall here?
Yes.
Yes, great. Welcome. You are from South Orleans.
South Orleans.
Okay, I'm going to give you the mic, and you have a couple minutes.
Hi. Well, sometimes a departure is also an act of desperation, and this piece falls into that category. I was living in the early 90s on a Caribbean island, and I ran out of canvas. So I was waiting for a friend to send me some, and meanwhile I had to paint. So I started to be attracted to these pieces of metal that were lying all over the fields and that people built houses out of, and then maybe the house blew down and they built a chicken coop out of them, and they all had different histories. And so I began to paint on those, and it changed my work, and I have to say it's changed it to this day.
You continue to work on this metal? Is that
When I
something?
can find it.
You can find it, okay.
It's not easy to find in New England.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful piece. Bobby Cochran. Okay, great. Nice to meet you. You are all the way from Chicago, Illinois. Oh, well, thank you for coming all the way out to join us. Well, let me give you the mic and please let us know about this.
Okay. Well, first, I would like to thank Nick Lawrence and the Cape Cod Museum Sheriff. And my piece represents portraits from senior classes. So I started, I was going through my mom's senior class portrait book, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's so much history and so much emotion here. And I just started thinking about all these frozen bits of images in time. And I thought, I'm just going to try to capture the essence of what it's all about. So I took a piece of Arnett oil stick, a huge one, that I'm very uncomfortable with, and I just pushed myself into an unknown area and just trying to just capture their energy, their emotion, where are they going, where are they headed, are they happy, are they scared, just that's what it's all about. And I think that it's a universal feeling that all of us engage in, whether it's senior class or if it's getting married or whatever the next chapter of our lives is. I think that that's the universal feeling that I'm trying to capture.
Was there an Andy Warhol reference?
I'm a big fan of Andy Warhol, but I was previously to this, my new venture into full-time fine art. I was a graphic design, had a graphic design firm and illustration firm, and a lot of my paintings of billboards and so forth for corporate clients were in flat cut paper.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's definitely influenced me. Definitely.
So great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I see out of the corner of my eye, Michael Giaquinto. I might want to mention that Michael has a one-person exhibition at this museum coming up in 2025.
Yes, this is a departure for me because I am an abstract painter, and each year is a departure from what I've been doing. You learn from one to the other. And this is part of a series of 10. Actually, there's 10 are done already, and one begets the other. So when I'm done with one of them, I usually pay attention to what I've done and then start another one. So that's my departure.
Thank you very much, Michael. And Hugo, who got second prize, is here tonight.
Thanks very much. Departure, as it turns out, is it's not a loaded word, but it's a very rich word, and it means about 50 different things. Certainly this was a departure for me, starting as a collage artist, but in a way it's not a departure at all because I see this as collage, even though the materials are different. I'm working in 2 or 3 other areas now. All of them are collage in one way or another. So in that way, that works for me. But in 2015, on that podium right there was a wood assemblage by Helen O'Leary, and who's a wonderful Irish artist who actually lives in the U.S. now. And I was working here as a volunteer, and I hung a show that year that had a Helen O'Leary piece, and it was on that one podium right there. And I have never forgotten it. And it was the first time I had ever seen such a spindly, colorful wood assemblage of any kind. It was completely new. And a few years after that, I was very much motivated to try something that way myself. And a neighbor drops off to me a box with hundreds of these little pieces of nonsense in it. And suddenly Helen O'Leary comes back to me, and I started putting this together, trying to think like a 6-year-old. Instead of thinking like an adult, which we mostly do, making our art, I wanted to think as a 6-year-old. And since I know that the original inspiration had come from the daycare, I just thought, this is my expression of what children in a daycare would get together and put on the wall one morning. So that's how this came about, and it has led to many, many other wood assemblages, not as, fanciful as that, but it opened up a whole new branch for me. Again, still collage, and the kind of thing that I enjoy very much, no matter what the materials are, the basic process is collage.
You really confused my hanging crew because they were thinking that it should be balanced in the middle, and when they put the nail in and hung it and figured out that it was off center, they had to put another.
That was 6-year-old hanging.
Okay, so we're going to do these two, and then we're going to jump to Ann Giuliani because she has a class. Are you teaching Ann, or are you?
5:30.
You're teaching at 5:30. Okay, well, we'll do these two, and then we'll jump to yours.
It's down that way. Okay.
Okay. Is Mary Mazziati here? No. Okay, how about Kathy Wajkowski? Okay, you're up. So if you could just follow. Yeah, great.
In the sense that,
We'll be close because I can't hear you downstairs.
yeah, this is a departure in the sense that most of my work since I came from the New York area, and you'll see my twang is going to come through. When I was in New York, I did only abstract art because this is going to age me because I went to school at NYU and Washington Square, and at that time, abstract expressionism was the thing. And so I only did that. And when I came up here about 1980s, I was taken with the area here, and I switched completely into doing things that were based on nature. So it's like this is coming around again to a different thing, but this is the idea of play, it's the idea of chance, it's the results of printmaking, which is another very important part of my art. It's not only painting and drawing, but printmaking. And it's led me to explore and experiment and just enjoy what happens and let it happen. And so this was, and this is actually was the beginning of a palette that I had in my studio. And there were ink on the palette. And I just didn't want to part with it because it looked so good. So I had to clean it up, but I thought, well, I will just put a piece of paper over it and make an impression of it. And the playful part of it was that when I got the impression, it looked pretty good. Then I made a number of them. And then I got very anxious about it and thinking, well, I needed to have more space in my studio. So I interleaved them with newsprint. I left for the day, came back. When I came back, the newsprint was stuck into sections of the print. And when I took it off and tore it off, it looked really good. So I then had to deal with the whole thing, because then I had to put that onto a board. And when I put it on the board, I had another problem, which brought me into everything that I know about art, with printmaking, with lithography, with silk screen, with drawing, with painting. So this brought in everything with the object of trying to create an image that had a wholeness to it or a clarity to it. And so that was the result, but this took over a year to resolve. So it just goes to show you that things that happen around you that are accidental, if you are open to it, you will see the results of it, you'll see the possibilities. And that is the joy of doing art. It's the joy of being creative, is being able to see it, appreciate it. So that's it.
From Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, I came up with Brooklyn. This picture was a departure for my work in many ways. Instead of doing straight up landscapes, which is pretty much the common thing out here, I decided to work from a photograph and to make a photograph of ruins of a historic place. So this up here is the Peace Memorial in Hiroshima. And another thing that I did differently that I had never done before, which was to try to adapt the Chinese hanging scroll format to Western watercolor technique. And I studied Chinese art in art history in undergrad, but I'd never done it in a studio practice. And then doing it like this vertical way, really allowed me to open up. I could get something really, really tight and meticulous like the ruins, but I could also get all those really amazing wet-on-wet watercolor things happening as it flows down and sort of gradually changes from something really realistic to something fluidly abstract. And then after this, I did a whole series of these where I took ruins of different disasters and embedded them in different sort of flowing serpentine kind of waves like this. And it just sort of allows you to look at something that's pretty gloomy and see it as something that's just part of a bigger sort of cosmic whole.
When Nick was looking at this at first, he loved it just on its composition, and seeing digital image, you can't really see the details sometimes, and it wasn't until a little bit later that we saw the ruin up there. So nice discovery. We have Barry Peter here. Oh, great. Hi, Barry. Nice to see you. Here.
Thank you very much, and it's great to be here with all this great art. My departure really came from retirement into photography and art. So that was a big departure for me because I was not thinking about art or photography. I was walking the dog one day and I saw a boat washed in the marsh, and it was collecting colors from the marsh, and a look that became evident that the look of the boat hull was very much like the look of the island where I live in East Falmouth, Mass. About half an hour from here. This is a neighbor's boat. This is the hull of a boat, I don't know if you can tell. And it contains the colors of the ocean, basically. And I was out in a kayak about 6 feet away, taking a picture of this boat hull. And what you can see is basically the water line. I don't use any Photoshop, I don't lighten or darken my work. I just take pictures of boat hulls at close range and capture what's there. And I see worlds everywhere I look now. So I've departed from reality, and I've become a kind of this guy that sees boat hull art everywhere. The boats look very much like the environment where the boats live. And in this environment, since I was 6 feet away, this is dirt, and the owner of this boat would love to get his boat out of the water and clean it. The power washer was my enemy, because it's the first thing people power wash away. It's all this garbage. This is salt, this is the hull, it's a blue painted hull, and this is salt water. It was a windy day, and the salt had blown on the side of the boat, and it looked to me like clouds, and hence the sky started to form. And then a splash of water came up, the wind blew water, so this represents a splash of water, and it became to me what looked like Tahiti or Neverland, which I called it. and the rest is all natural environments. People tell me over at Woods Hole that boat chemistry very much is dictated by the body of water where the boat lives. So the boat hull becomes a fingerprint for where that boat lives. And scientists tell me they can tell where the boat lives based on the look and the colors and the feel of the salinity and the flow and the tidal changes and all the various chemical compounds. So it's called hullscapes, and everywhere you look, there's a hullscape. They're beautiful and they're everywhere if you look for them. So thank you.
I've been an admirer from afar for a while, so I'm happy that you're part of this exhibition.
Thank you.
Kara Beth Bradger, is she here? Okay. Continue on. I saw Patty Barnes is here. There she is. Patty is a wonderful contributor to the museum. She teaches classes and she also volunteers in our shop. So thank you for that as well.
My honor. Truly, thank you. What can I do? I'm an artist in oil, but I've taken up gouache since I had COVID because I paint standing up, and when I had gouache and when I had COVID, I was sick, so I had to sit down. I'm liking it. I was teaching a class in oil, an introduction to oil, and I do center lots of silly little people, and I was going to paint a friendship piece and teaching them how I make bodies. And the way I do it is I start at feet and go up. I find it's the best way for me to end up with the right proportion. So I did this lady, and then I did these legs, and then I went home, and then the next week when I came back, it just struck me. And I kind of did a little spiritual thing there and made her disappear. Someone was in the gift shop I was working this afternoon, and she said, "Have you lost anybody? I saw your painting." And it made me think, about 25 years ago, I lost my best friend, and I still miss her. And we used to play, and we were in Wisconsin, so there wasn't any beach. That's a funny story. When my husband was framing this, as he does, he put a hole in it by mistake, and I call it one of those happy accidents because I now look at that as the hole where the soul can go.
Is Sasha Appleton with us here today? Angie Cole? And I know Lauren Walt wanted to be here, but she's not here with us. It's her piece. Thomas Watson is here.
Thank you. My interpretation of the departure theme was somewhat different. I'm a landscape painter, and I work primarily in oils, and I do a lot of commissions, especially over the last 4 or 5 years. And periodically, I find it very useful to work in 3 dimensions instead of 2. And one of the things that I enjoy doing sometimes is to carve wood or other materials like that. And I've made a lot of duck decoys, but they take a lot of time. So I thought, well, I'll make some miniature ones. They won't take as long, and then I won't be away from my easel for as much time. But it's very difficult to justify spending time not painting. So I started out and I made this, and it ended up taking so long that it defeated my purpose. But I also recognized during that time that occasionally, as a creator, there are creations that take on a life of their own and demand that we pay attention to them. And as much as you try to push them into the background while you're working on what you're supposed to be working on, they insist, and they keep insisting, and they won't leave you alone until you stop doing what you're supposed to be doing and work on this command. And I feel like that's a demand that has to be listened to from time to time. So that was why that's my justification for having spent many hours working on this. But I do, as a two-dimensional artist, I find it very useful to work in 3 dimensions occasionally because it helps tremendously in when you're. I'm a realist painter, more or less traditional oil paintings is what I do, and working in 3 dimensions really does help to find the shape and form of whatever objects one is painting. So there you have it.
Thank you, Tom. I know sometimes working very small is often harder than working large. So if you come and enjoy this piece, you'll see what I mean. The details are extraordinary. Holly Barr, is she with us tonight? Yes? No? Okay. Lori Farr? Okay, well I know, Gelbar. Okay, here she is.
Hi, nice to be here. It's an excuse to come east from where I am, Western Mass. So this piece is a departure in a couple of ways. I was a photographer and an art historian focusing on Asian art. And I took a class with a friend of mine who did encaustics. And she said, oh, you can do so much with encaustics. So I printed the photographs on fabric so that then I could mold the photographs into a 3-dimensional form. So this is actually a photograph on fabric. And then I add encaustic, which looks like the water dripping. So this is the waterfall coming down. And if you look in the middle is the center, is what we call daunting, or your heart, the source of your energy, your chi. So that's where the water pools. And then she's holding, on one hand, she's holding the water, and in the other hand, the water is pouring off from a hand. So she's trying to find a balance, like the yin and yang. So I created this piece, and she was the start of my doing a lot of sculptures. And at the same time, I was commissioned to do a large installation, which had hanging photographs on fabric and some of these mats on the floor, so it made a whole installation. Okay, so I had those separate, I had that separate, and I had this sculpture.
I see the whole thing.
Then what I call the tsunami came, or better known as COVID. And I saw her sitting there trying to find a balance between what she lets go of and what she holds on to. And I thought, oh, she should be in the tsunami. So I did this piece. It started as a photograph of water, and I painted on top of it to create the tsunami, and then did the floor piece, so it became an installation. So now she is in the tsunami. So it became like a whole installation. So people say to me, what kind of art do you do? I go, well, it's photography, it's painting, it's sculpture, it's installation. Why do we have these categories? So it's a total departure from everything that I had done before, and she was sort of really the start of major pieces that I do with it.
Fascinating piece. I've seen many people mesmerized by it. She's really floating. It's very
great job installing her, which I know can be difficult.
Thank you. I think we will continue into the back gallery here. Abby Faye Smith, which are you? Great. I can pull up her piece.
I'm also a high school teacher, so I probably have this microphone. So this is my piece here. I was kind of frustrated with the direction my work was going in, and I decided to gesso over a bunch of stuff. And I made this kind of like swooping motion, and this face appeared not on this piece, but and I called her Gigi. That's what my daughter. I have a 5 and a 6-year-old. My daughter, my son called my daughter when she was in my belly. For some reason, that's the name he made up. So I was like, all right, it's kind of this unknown. I don't know who she is. She appeared out of this mess of gesso, and I've just been using her over and over again. This piece was kind of a departure, or she's kind of a departure from the frustration of the work that I was going through. So it's a lot of different media. She's actually screen printed. There's 2 different screen prints, so the large bold face, and then it's her. I kind of imagine her as like a frustrated mom. That's what a lot of my work's about. She's like kind of screaming and got her fists down, and there's baby children or other moms screaming with her. Haven't quite figured it out, but all of the fabric that you see, I taught fashion design for 10 years as well at Barnstable High School. But I just hold on to all of this stuff. Some of them are paint rags that I've used over the years, and now they're all like my children's old clothing and bibs and bags that their toys come in. So I'm just kind of collecting all that stuff through the years. And then the charcoal is just what I imagine maybe Gigi looks like as a real human, realistic version. Yeah. Thank you.
I love the discovery when it takes a little while to see the charcoal face. And it's really a great piece.
It's so nice to be here. It's a beautiful space and a lot of great artists. This is actually, it came from failed use of resin that I thought was a little more self-leveling than it actually was. So this was just taking advantage of like a giant mistake.
You might want to mention the title because it does reveal the representational tie.
Yeah. So just the texture is just playing with resin that wasn't smooth, but I actually enjoyed the texture. And I also got aware, I did a lot of mural work and commission work, and since COVID, it's just not something I want to do anymore. So this was, you know, part of the series, Silk and Salt.
And this is a cephalopod of jellyfish.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is Jenny Prescott with us?
Yes.
Great. Yours is easy.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I'm honored to be from Philadelphia. I'm a native New Yorker. If I don't say that, my mom will have something to say.
Well, thank you for coming all the way.
Thank you. My work before I started painting in August of 2021 was all ink, and I was making graph paper and doing very technical work. And I played around with the idea of, we tried to make everything, you know, we tried to plan and everything, and then I would throw paint or ink on my work to say, I'm trying to control it, but I have no control. Then,
That's good, thank you.
then I had an out-of-order death in my family. less than a month after I started painting. So it really took the graph out from under me, and the following paintings, including to this day, have been kind of finding my way back to the graph and acknowledging that really we can't have chaos without order and order without chaos. They support each other. They are an integral part of one another. And this is what I find to be a beautiful representation of that.
The very raw, almost looks like one brush stroke across the canvas combined with the very precise dots. So it's a great contrast. Okay, I know Nicole Cook is here.
You want to move it?
Maybe you should move it. I can put it on these two chairs. Pretty cool. Here you go.
Thank you, Benton, and thank you, everybody. Firstly, just so honored to be in this space and with these artists, so thank you for that. I am a multidisciplinary artist, so this is not so much a departure from one medium to the next, so much as the work itself represents a culmination of different departures in myself. I was formerly a professional athlete. I was formerly living in Los Angeles, and now I'm neither of those things, in a different place. The work I also find to be evocative of departure, the discrepancy between the canvases, the space. As I started as a sculptor, I'm fascinated and interested in work that involves the perspective of the viewer. Light will change this work. Your feet will change this work. And I think I share a commonality with the other creators in this room, some of whom I've known and have met and admire, of a desire to create and a compulsion to create what it is that we imagine. And sometimes that cannot fit easily into classical categories of our work, but the compulsion to, in not even a trivial way, literally like make dreams come true, is an interesting artistic expression. And so I want to again thank the Cape Cod Museum of Art and Benton for giving us a space to do so.
Is Joan Appel here with us tonight? Dimitri Gershwin, Deborah Manville, Aaron Broder.
Yes.
Okay. What should we do? Can people see this one? This one is actually maybe viewable.
It's heavy.
It is heavy. Right. So here you go, Aaron.
Thank you, everyone. I'm honored to be here and be part of the show. Oh, sorry. So this work, at the time, I was making materials-based wall works and painting on standard canvases. And I'm also a sculptor, so I kind of wanted to fuse all of those worlds together. And as a painter, I was always bothered by the edge of a standard canvas and wasn't always happy with what resulted with it, and I just kind of wanted to address that in a different kind of way. So I had many sheets of plywood and I didn't know what to do with those, so I started to rip them down into strips, and the frame is just layers and layers of plywood strips, and I carved that up with an angle grinder, and then very tightly stretched canvas on top, but intentionally left the sides exposed. That way you can see that raw edge, and then just trimmed away the canvas and painted over that. So it was a way for me to marry the worlds of two-dimensional work and three-dimensional work together.
Nice. Ida Picker. Oh,
Should I go over there?
I'll bring it out.
Okay.
Here's Ida. From Chatham, New Jersey.
That was a long drive. Okay.
If you could speak it, because that's how
Okay.
they're
Is this okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, this evolved from several series I did before. One of them involved, it was called Necessary Things, and I did it during COVID in my basement. During the blizzard, I started it, and I did that man-made tag and the dryer and detergent bottles, and they all seemed to kind of have faces.
Can you speak? Because downstairs they can't hear you.
Yeah, okay. See, you listen to my voice. I'll have to talk less. This evolved from several series I did before. One of them involved. One of them involved. Why I maintained the. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
The dryer, detergent bottles. I was doing that. We're sort of turning into creatures. So some of them became creatures. This is like a tube from reminiscent of the prototype battery, and then this is from the standing fan series. And then this is a departure in terms of palette also, because I usually do things that are very bright. I was trying to tone myself down. I didn't completely succeed, but it's a somewhat softer palette. And it has also creatures in it.
Thank you. I was thinking when Ben was taking this off the wall, how my artwork in the past has been very heavy, literally. And it's such a delight to travel with recycled textiles. So, you know, the truth is, I started as a young child watching my mother sew clothes for 6 of us. And she made everything, as probably many of your mothers did. And so I started at a very young age being influenced by sort of the saving, being practical, all of that. And I extended that into finding treasures. And everything in life that people were going to throw away, I found a treasure on the beach, you know, in Cape Cod, and would do something with it. So that brought me to COVID after working with many other mediums, and I started to work with the textiles again. And it's very interesting because I have a friend that's here, and she has a bag I made maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It was textiles. I have a quilt that I made in the 70s. It was textiles, but I didn't see that thread going through my life. What I saw was the recycled materials, which I have the greatest joy of working with, long before recycling came in. So that's what I did here. I mean, they're just textiles. I made these little pots, and then I throw them across the room like a child, because it didn't hurt anybody. And I just enjoyed doing stitchery and adorning it in whatever way I wanted to. I had no idea what all these pots would be. And eventually put it together on a recycled lampshade frame that was being thrown away. So, you know, there's no end. And I find that I often start with one piece and everything else speaks to me. And the departure part was because this appears to be very different to other people looking at my artwork, which was often glass and metals. I had a hard time knowing that it's okay to continue the textile, which I love. And that I needed to tell myself it doesn't have to be one thing, no matter if people are looking for that one element. And it's freed me tremendously. Thank you.
An artist, Indina Gramazde from Latvia. So I don't think she's here, but you never know. But anyway, there are landscapes in little bottle caps, so a lot to see. Okay, Joyce Zaborskis. Hi, Joyce.
Thank you to Benton and to Nick Lawrence. And it's a pleasure to be on the show. I'm very happy to be here. So I live in South Orleans. I'm a plein air painter and a printmaker. So I work inside and work outside. But all of my ideas come from the outside. As I walk in nature all the time. It's a place of solitude and peace. And you get great exercise and I get a lot of inspiration from being in nature. So this piece is called Significant Change. I viewed some dunes at the Coast Guard Beach in East End the day after a noisy storm. So now the beach is all placid and beautiful. But that day, it looked like everything had been turned upside down. And that's what I love to do. The day after a storm, I always go to the beach and I see how the furniture got moved in the night. And so this piece was a unique shape for dune. Normally you're horizontal and you're rolling. But this one was pointed and it was very dramatic. So I took pictures of it, and from those pictures, I made a monotype, which is a painting on plexiglass that you put to a press gently with a piece of paper on top. So the ink goes into the fibers of the paper and becomes a permanent cotton of the image. And what else? I wanted to say when the woman from Philadelphia was standing here, she had flowing hair, and it almost looked like this was a portrait of a person, and she was standing in front of it, and a portrait of a person. But maybe when people make art, it is a portrait of themselves coming out. But I have to say I love nature, and that's always been an inspiration for me. Thank you.
Having seen a number of your works, I can see how this is a departure for you specifically.
Yeah, normally I work horizontally.
Right. Hey. Mariana Baker. Weapons of Mass Love. Linda Mahoney. How about Pamela Bauer-Basso? Okay, come on down. Can everybody see her piece? I want to mention that it's made out of collage out of maps, so it's a very detailed thing. It's a piece you need to come and approach.
Hi, I'm Ann Bauer-Basso from Norwell, Massachusetts. My piece is called The Massachusetts Row Act, Boston Strong. It was done in 2022, just after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It is a mixed media piece, as you said. It's collage or paint on a map of Boston. I have been working in mixed media and collage for many years. I've also made work about women's issues, but primarily they are more personal to me, about things like family and home and pregnancy and motherhood. And I went to the Women's March in Boston in 2017, and the departure, I was overwhelmed by the support and the energy around this larger women's issue. And the visuals at that event also were incredible. The posters and the signage and the artwork that people made just really were powerful. So I started a series of work looking at the abortion laws in various states. And I did a whole series of red state restrictions. And I also wanted to do a few that were more positive. So this one is Massachusetts, and we, in Massachusetts, added the amendment in 2020 to protect abortion rights, and that's where I am right now, continuing this series as they pop up each day with what's happening in various states. Unfortunately, you have a lot of subject matter to paint these days, or collage.
So C.J. Laurie. He's here. Great. We use this on the front of our handout.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. She's from Brooklyn, Mass.
I've been painting this Trees Leaving series for about 19 years. And it was inspired by a trip to France. I was looking at the beautiful skies, thinking about the threat we've become to our own environment, and also remembering the Greeks floating men with bowler hats, which I turned into trees. This piece was a bit of a departure. It was the first piece I put person in. And it was done in response to something that happened after the 2016 election. I've been showing my Trees Leaving paintings, and people would always kind of go, oh, isn't that sad, the trees are leaving? And it was true, it was sad, the trees were leaving. But then, after that election, they looked at the paintings and said, what became the title of this piece? Take Me With You. And I thought that was so interesting, and I kept on this series, unlike most other series where you do 5, 10, 15, but I've done maybe 60 or 70, because it always expands a meaning for me about loss, liberation, and that yearning for escape. Thank you.
The title is Take Me With You. I wanted to actually, even though we can't see them as a group, Tom Paxo has a video, and I see him in the audience here. So maybe you could just speak to your video and then people can watch it later. It says in the program that the videos are being shown downstairs, but they're actually on the screen in our Ocean Edge Gallery. Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for allowing me to be in this. One of the things that I did with this video, or it wasn't really a video, is I never really thought of myself as a computer artist or an animation person as much as a sculptor, where everything else was just sort of part of sculpture. And because of that, I was constantly dabbling with three-dimensional modeling and later on animation. What happened was I became very frustrated with it because it became more of a chore to learn all the tutorials and to try to understand what this motion was and that. And I basically learned best by just following my own gut. And so at a certain point, I was having this accident of pushing objects through objects, and it dawned on me, and I can't do this in real sculpture. I can't really put an object through an object. And so what I did was I started to experiment with it. And in this particular piece, what was so-called the departure was this is the time that I started realizing that the flatness of some architecture, I could put some objects through which had like these bumps on them, and those bumps would just have a different rhythm than all the other rhythms. And I also found out I could musically move back and forth without having to walk around in the objects. And so again, this was trying to find using it as a sculptural medium in a way in which I am now trying to find its voice. And it's really not necessarily what I see in Pixar, and I really do like Pixar, but it's something that I can do on my own, and I can do my own garage band, basically. Anyway, thank you.
The other video, there's two videos on a loop in there. This is by Rick Paulus. Are you familiar? Yes. Great. Maybe I'll just give a brief description, but there's a, Rick, you were a calligrapher for the White House, I believe?
Chief calligrapher for the White House.
And so in this video, Rick is creating a poem on the beach with a rake. And it's being viewed by a drone from above. And maybe you can tell us a little bit more.
Thank you. Yeah, this film is a departure in many, many ways. I've worked on paper in quarter to half-inch letters for 40 years. I've never worked I work in a paper and ink, and this is insane. My letters are small, I do them like this. When I started using full body movement with breaks to create 8-foot letters, it changed the whole dynamic of lettering for me. It was magical. And I immediately saw this video in my mind 4 or 5 years before I finally got to develop it. So I encourage you to watch it in there. It's also available on YouTube. And it's a huge departure. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Dave Holbrook, I believe you're here. This is quite a piece. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say departure is my strong preference to public speaking, but maybe I can deconstruct this piece a little bit. It's something that, I mean, I'm basically a carpenter, cabinet maker, stairwell, and so forth. And I've been doing this kind of work for the last 4 or 5 years only, and kind of jealous of my time for anything else now. But each piece here, kind of each piece of wood, I could say, or each element has something to say about what came before, like the recycled wood base to me represents, say, a step up from living in the cave, we moved to wood dwellings, then we moved from live fire to propane or gas fire as an advance, moved from fire to electricity to light, moved from landlines, which I still like, still have one, to cell phones, and maybe this asks like the nutritional value of today's technology. So anyway, that's, I think otherwise it's a pretty overt thing, you can draw your own conclusions, so thank you.
As a favor of any of the school tours that have come through, they just love this piece, and I do too.
I love kids.
Thomas Hoffman? Orleans, right, okay, great.
Hello, thanks for having me. This was at several points of departure for me, and it was kind of a surprise that it came together for me from those departures. Really, it was playing around with a lot of new painting techniques for me, being much juicier, wetter, much more loose kind of thing. So it kind of surprised me that it came together. Really, there's 2 major things that allowed it to come together, at least the way I think about it. One was I went back to painting techniques that I hadn't used for like 30 years, which was a lot of small brushwork and scumbling and kinds of things. So it was kind of just painting techniques that helped center the piece from the experimental strokes that I was making. And second was sort of a return to, for me, to symbols painting, which I really haven't been doing very much. I really usually just stick to the landscape part. But I think it was because when I was doing this piece, I was thinking about my mother a lot, who had been sick recently. And I was just thinking about her life, and she was a very colorful person, so I was putting a lot of color in and that sort of thing. And originally, actually, this little owl down there was a figure. It was an older woman who was sort of walking by, And I don't know, somehow, it just wasn't, the whole piece didn't seem to be working for me. And as I was thinking about her and somehow turning that into a symbol rather than an actual person strengthened to me like the sort of spiritual meaning of it. Sort of made it easier to connect, I think, for other people. And then also because she's elderly and sick, I'm the figure there, and the sort of shadow has a sense of foreboding too. So that use of almost literal symbols was kind of an old thing that I used to do. So bringing it back into my experimental technique was kind of like a synthesis of old and new kinds of approaches for me.
Here it is. John Deppahouse. Paul Eric Johnson. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
You're from Connecticut?
Yes.
What's the town?
Stafford Springs.
Okay.
First time you go by, you go to New York.
Thank you for coming.
This print is called Mystic Words from a series I call the Crappy Negative series, and it involves it requires an explanation. A series of departures and destinations, let's say. Ralph Mercer, my roommate, first taught me how to develop film. I printed in a dark room. And I was doing multimedia with slideshows and cookbooks, so I didn't really care about it that much, but whenever I did, I just messy, develop it, not too careful. Throw it in the box, throw it in the box. And jump ahead. Finally, all that color film that I had, that came out digital printers, and one said it was for photos. This was down in New Jersey. Much later after that, we're going to finally be able to come back from New Jersey to New England. And I got a free, real cheap scanner from buying an iMac. And before leaving, I looked at that box. It was sitting on a shelf, in the dust, in the dirt, scratched out, not well processed or anything. And thought, let's see if we can at least make a record to know what's in it. And on that bouncing around light, cheap resolution, but with the digital technology to resurrect it. It's really a story of resurrection, and enough gets shot. Take things like tonality. It becomes all about the tonality in one. And that's the final destination in the print.
Thank you so much. Is Sally Moore here?
Yes.
Okay, Sally.
I'm Sally Moore. I'm from Jamaica Plains, Mass. It's this piece here. And the departure here for me was I had been working in a sort of rough paper clay where I would be putting pieces of metal and found objects and all sorts of things in it because I liked the rawness of it. And then with this piece, I got rid of the paper clay and just worked with hardware cloth and twisted pieces of chicken wire and all sorts of scrap wire and found materials. And, I think I'm influenced by, clearly the figure is going one way, the horse is going the other. That's partly the departure idea also, but I'm thinking of the environment here, but also just the images of destruction that are just constant in the news, I think has partly led me to this scrappy way of working. And I think that's it.
When you look closely, you'll see some details. I love the fact that you have the heart represented with a little red and the brain with a little gray matter there. So it's a piece you can dive into. Let's do this other sculpture. Is Gerald Erridge here? Okay. How about Alan Gary? I know that Billy Ball is here. Come on, Bill.
Great to see you. Thank you, Benton. Thank you, Benton. Thank you, everybody. Departures, it evokes leaving something behind. The first thing I left behind was oil painting when I switched to woodblock. And I switched to a form of woodblock, which was leaving behind all the other kind of woodblock. And then I left that behind to do some lithography with Vladimir Schuster at the new print shop that he opened in Provincetown. Lithography is a method where you want to have an addition of prints that are all identical. So in doing that, you make a lot of departures from what you're really going to get. And this is a unique print from the edition. So there's 50 of the ones that look similar, but not exactly like this. But the other thing that I liked about Departure, which I got a clue from Nick Lawrence, is that Departure is a point where you take off. And so it's not something where you landed and you left something behind. It's a point where you take off. And so this is a great place to take off. Bye.
And unfortunately, the boats in Provincetown are slowly departing one at a time too. J.S. Dykes. Okay, great. J.S. is from Boston, Mass.
John, yeah, Ben, thank you very much. And thank you, Cape Cod Museum of Art, for this wonderful opportunity.
Sorry.
Let's see, so this is a huge departure for me. I've been a freelance illustrator for 40 years, worked for all sorts of clients through the years. A lot of stuff for the news magazines when they were news magazines, pre-internet, Time, Newsweek, Sports Illustrated, and all that. And so more recently, I've been doing some large paintings. My wife and I moved to a artist cooperative in Boston 6 years ago. So I've got a big studio and plenty of room to paint. But that was all representational work, a lot of work that has mid-century modern advertising, takeoffs, packaging, things like that. So just a few weeks ago, I wanted to take off and do some abstract work. I was inspired by some other illustrators who have done the same thing where after a certain number of years, maybe the subject matter drags on, you want to try something new. It was a huge departure because it was non-representative work, non-objective work, and abstract, which is completely different from illustration. And so there's a lot of self-doubt and hesitation when going about it. It's fun as can be to lay in bold areas of color and see where that goes. But then the momentum gets going and you just make constant iterations. It's constantly responding to the previous marks that you put down. And it was, this particular piece is my first abstract work. That the day before the entries were due, it was not ready for prime time. But all it needed was that 2 or 3 more hours of finishing up. And then I was able to get it into the show on time. And so this is a nice boost for me because I'm creating work for a show in our gallery, which will be only abstract work. So it helps to have this into the show. So thanks, everybody.
And speaking of helping with the artist, many of these artworks are for sale, and if anybody is interested, the majority of the proceeds goes directly to the artist. Is Jane Paradise in the building? I didn't see her. And Mark Goodmanson. And this is the last one of the group here, Graham Casano. Is he here? Wow. Well, thank you all for taking... Oh, did I miss you? Did I miss one? Which one did I miss?
Mark Chester.
Mark Chester. He's not here. Is he here?
On the wall there.
Oh, this one. Okay. Oh, thank you. Do we have Henny Kurzman here? No, we don't. Okay, well, thank you again for taking this departure with the museum. This is something innovative for us to take on a subject that is kind of cutting edge and going on for the ride with us. And I hope you enjoy your evening and enjoy each other's company. Thank you.